Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is banks close, dollar drops, and China and Russia. I got some real important information for you today. Before I get started, yes, if you want your car to start, when the suitcase nukes go off, go to empshield.com, use the promo code PROPHECY, get you a $50 discount and helps your Prophecy Club. And if you have money in paper, wherever that may be, and you don't want to lose it, especially life savings like an IRA or a 401k, I would suggest you call 800-200-GOLD. 800-200-GOLD. Last thing, Joseph Kitchen. If you want to be eating what I think is God's famine food, and that is the cheapest food, wheat, go to josephkitchen.com. They have videos and explain it all up there to you. And a couple more things before I get started. We are looking for the headline, Omer ushers in Palestinian state. And there are 28 days left in the counting of the Omer. Now, I'm not saying that this headline is necessarily going to appear this year, but if it is the counting of the Omer, and if it is going to appear this year, it means it has 28 days left. And I'm not saying it's necessarily going to appear in Jerusalem Post, but that was in the dream, so that's an assumption. But that is what we're looking for. In case you don't know what we're talking about, read this and this, but I'm not getting on that today. All right. Also, I'm not reading all this, but this ties with what we're going to be talking about today. So Shane Warren was told that during a financial storm caused by them starting to sell oil and another currency other than the dollar, specifically countries trying to collapse the dollar, that fits, there would be a new Madrid earthquake, and that would also bring a great revival. Now to the point today. Flash, urgent. Cuban banking system has collapsed. And this is confirmed by several things on Twitter. The banking system of Cuba has reportedly collapsed. Cubans are reporting via social media all their money is gone from their accounts. Let me say it again. All of their money is gone from their accounts. Not just a few, but all of them. The whole Cuban banking system is closed. It gets worse. Also, all automated teller machines, ATMs have also all been emptied. At banks all over the country, angry mobs descended upon the banks where police tried to turn them away, but instead the mobs overturned police cars and sent the cops running. It was all for naught. Not only were the banks closed, now get a load of this, but they were also empty too. In other words, people actually went into the vaults trying to get their money, and there was all their money gone. They were all empty. In other words, basically the banks just closed up shop and just left and went home. The Cuban people have been left with no financial resources. They have no means of buying food. They are desperate and they are afraid. Many people are saying, this is just the final destination. This is where globalism wants to lead all of the people, and I unfortunately have to agree. Cubans were forced to adopt the digital banking system. That's where we think it's going. And now they're financially ruined and they have no recourse. Okay, now think about this. Sometimes it takes a chaos in order to make a change. On the front of the Morals and Dogma Bible, it really is, by Albert Pike, it says ordo ab chaos. That's Latin, and it means order out of chaos. Order? What order? A new world order, a world government. Out of a chaos, what chaos? A chaos they create. As a matter of fact, I could go through and show you several places where that is their plan. In other words, they're going to create a chaos, and then they're going to offer a solution. It's called the Hegelian dialectic. First you cause the problem, then you offer the solution, and the solution changes society. That's what they're working on. Hal Turner says, if they did this to the Cubans, what would stop them from doing it to the rest of us? Oh, well, Cuba, it's a little bitty country. Well, wait a minute. Maybe that's why they did it there. Maybe that's why they started there, because they have their hands around the throats of the Cubans more than any other place. But that's not saying they're going to stop there. You got to understand that. He goes on to say, I think you should start taking some cash out of the banks. These bankers are globalists. If they did in Cuba, I think they'll try it here and everywhere else, and I have to agree with him. I think they're doing this on this little island nation to get a sense of how bad the reaction will be. It's called floating a balloon. And it's manageable. I think they'll do it to all of us. And if governments is in on it, what could any individual do? It's probably a preview of what's coming. More. China dumps the largest amounts of U.S. Treasuries in history. Okay, so we see China, the Cuba banks closed, and now China is dumping the largest amounts of U.S. Treasuries in history. Well, what does that mean? That is a very big sign, my brothers and sisters. In an unprecedented move, China offloads a record $53.3 billion of U.S. Treasuries and agency bonds. Okay, that's going to crash the dollar. That's a large part of it anyway. With economic relations between China and the United States continuing to raise investor concern, China has deviated from the historical norms by offloading one of the largest amounts of U.S. Treasury and agency debt. In other words, they are intentionally crashing the dollar. Why? Well, I'm about to show you that China and Russia have just kissed and made up, and they're buddy-buddy. And all of this, it's God's hand destroying America, taking America down because we've turned from Jesus. Particularly in the first quarter of 2024, China offloaded a record-breaking $53.3 billion of U.S. Treasuries and agency bonds. Notably, China, a major holder of U.S. debt, I'll say it again, a major holder of U.S. debt, reduced its Treasury holdings by $22 billion during the first 3 months of 2024, while the remainder of the offloaded assets comprised agency bonds. In other words, China holds enough of our debt. If they were to start dumping it as fast as they could, probably that alone, not to mention selling oil in another currency other than the dollar, would crash the dollar. Now, further confirmation. Historic Putin Xi Jinping meeting with, now get a load of this, nuclear suitcases in hand. The last meeting before the invasion of Taiwan, forever Russian and Chinese brothers. I'll read that last part again. So they had a meeting, and they are openly saying forever Russian and Chinese brothers. Now, is that true? I'm going to show you I don't think they're being genuine. President Xi Jinping welcomed his Russian brother, Vladimir Putin, in Beijing today in a grand ceremony. His historic meeting, which is full of symbolism, and boy, I watched some of the videos, it is full of symbolism, is the last, look at this, is the last of the two leaders' meetings before the Chinese invasion of Taiwan. I'll read it again. It's the last of the two leaders' meetings, it didn't say the word meetings, before the Chinese invasion of Taiwan. Did they not openly say that they are buddy-buddy to plan to go in and invade Taiwan? Is that not? Look, I didn't say it, they said it. Xi Jinping fully and without asterisks, in other words, no added support to it, asterisk supported Russia on the Ukraine issue and on the asset seizure issue while blasting NATO Western policies. So this is actually a meeting between China and Russia specifically planning to attack Taiwan. Or did I read something wrong there? Read it. The two leaders met with nuclear suitcases in hand, sending a message to the West and NATO. And what would be the message by sending or by carrying the nuclear suitcases with them? What they're saying is, we're not just buddies, but we're buddies militarily. And USA, if you messed with us, we will use nukes. And as you know now, we have nukes that can hit you that you can't stop. We know because Iran launched Russian nuclear weapons, or not nuclear, but they were Russian missiles, hypersonic missiles, on Israel, and 8 of them got through their defenses, the best defenses in the world. Here's a picture of them walking along, and the two guys behind them are carrying the nuclear suitcases. I didn't say that. These guys, okay, so that's a very, very big message. You should look at that and let that sink in. Let that sink into your heart just a minute. Now let's go on, there's more. So the meeting between the two leaders lasted about 2.5 hours. That's a long meeting. And was the first trip of the Russian leader after taking office. So Putin wins office, so he goes and sees his buddy Xi Jinping in China. China's Xi Jinping rolls out the red carpet for his close friend Putin. By the way, this is from a Russian speaking website. Everything on this website's Russian. I have to have it translated to English. This is all Russian. Here, you want to see where it is? Let me back up and show you. Okay, right there. See bottom left, War News 247. That's it. I think it's warnews247.ru or something like that. Anyway, I'll try to put it up in the next program so you can go and get it. Okay, next, Russians and Chinese are forever brothers. Putin remarked, recalling an old song which they played, but is basically saying how the Russians and the Chinese are long-life buddies. Then they talked about what? Well, they weren't talking about let's make more money, let's have more trade. Instead, they're talking military stuff. Joint military exercises in Navy and Air Force. They co-sign that they agree for a sustainable settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. It is necessary to eliminate the root causes that caused it, USA, and to observe the principle of indivisible security. In other words, we're not separable. Taking into account the legitimate interests and concerns of all countries and ethnicities involved. We both believe that there must be strict compliance with international obligations regarding what? Immunities of states and their property, including state reserves, and we condemn initiatives to confiscate foreign state assets. I don't think that they're saying that we won't confiscate the assets of Taiwan. I think that they're saying that when we take over Taiwan, we will split it kindly, but we would not try to take over all of it from each other. Our countries will defend their legitimate rights and interests and resist attempts to limit their foreign policy and economic potential. Moscow and Beijing will further deepen their trust and cooperation in the military field. Did you hear that? Military field. So this is not a trade deal. This is a military cooperation. Why? They just told us. Because they plan to attack Taiwan. I'm going to show you. I got more. Expand the scope of military exercise and regularly conduct joint sea and air patrols. In other words, they're practicing military attacks. Sea and air patrols so as to continuously increase the capabilities and level of joint response to challenges and threats. Now, Putin and Xi Jinping joint statement on Ukraine military cooperation. Russia and China oppose prolonging the conflict in Ukraine. What are they talking about? They're not talking about trade. They're not talking about friendship. They're talking about military conquest. That's the whole point of all of this. And by the way, it comes off of a military, War News 247. So it's all of the stuff on the side is all about war news. Statement of Ukraine military cooperation. Russia and China oppose prolonging the conflict in Ukraine and also intend to deepen cooperation in the military sphere. Count up how many times you heard something about military here. Highlights of the joint statement of Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Moscow and Beijing do not want the conflict in Ukraine to enter into an uncontrolled phase. What they're saying is, we don't want it to go into a full World War III. We just want to take over Ukraine. Russia welcomes China's readiness to assist in the political statement of the crisis in Ukraine. China supports Russia's efforts to protect its sovereignty and opposes external interference in its affairs. In other words, if NATO or Britain or the United States jumps into this Ukraine thing or anything else China and Russia want to do, China and Russia are going to come over and box their ears. Moscow and Beijing will defend their legitimate rights and interests and resist attempts to limit their foreign policy and economic potential. Well, we did finally hear the word economic. China and Russia will deepen their cooperation in the military field. And again, there's military field, and expand the scope of joint exercises. Second time they said that. The Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China oppose efforts by individual countries to use outer space for purposes of armed conflict. That's right. We're going to limit everybody from putting any nukes in space except us. And truth is, they probably already have them up there. Russia and China believe that a political statement of the Ukrainian crisis is the right path, and China's position on this issue remains unchanged. So, to me, it kind of sounds like they're talking out both sides of their mouth. In other words, they're saying, yeah, we don't want war. Oh, yes, we do want war. Why do I say that? Well, so as I was preparing this came to mind. Dmitry Duduman, April 22, 1996. I prayed, then went to bed. I was still awake when suddenly I heard a trumpet sound. A voice cried out, saying, "Stand!" I saw 3 men dressed alike. 2 of the men carried weapons. One of the armed men said, "I woke you to show you what has come," he said. "Come with me." When we reached the place, he said, "Stop here." A pair of binoculars was handed to me, and I was told to look through them. "Stand there, don't move, and look," he continued. "You will see what they are saying and what they're preparing for America." I think if this is not specifically talking about this meeting of Xi Jinping and Putin, it's probably talking about one in the near future. I saw the president of Russia, a short, chubby man who said he was the president of China, and 2 others I could not understand. Now, this has been a question since I first read this back in, 1996? Now, I wished I had called and talked to Dmitry and got a clarification on this. So let me just tell you the misunderstanding or the question. I saw the president of Russia and a short, chubby man who said he was the president of China. Could it be that Xi Jinping is a president in name only? Could it be that there's another man behind him that is really in charge? Well, it could be. Or could it be that something happens to Putin, and here in very short order, another guy comes to power? Now, the next question is, I saw the president of Russia and a short, chubby man. Now, is that a period there? Or did he see the president of Russia as a short, chubby man? In other words, the question is the president of Russia short and chubby, or is the president of China short and chubby? Again, that's a question. We don't really understand. We don't understand that part, so I'll keep going. And 2 others I could not understand. I gathered they were part of a Russian-controlled territory. The Russian president began to speak to the Chinese one. "I will give you the land with all the people." I think he's talking about Taiwan. "And I will give you the land with all the people, and you must free Taiwan of the Americans. Do not fear, we will attack them from behind." See, I think that's what this meeting between Putin and Xi Jinping is doing right now. They are planning the attack on Taiwan. A voice said to me, "Watch where the Russians penetrate America." Okay, wait a minute. We haven't seen the Russians attack America, actually boots on the ground, yet. Or have we? So many people coming over our borders, we don't know anymore. A voice said to me, "Watch where the Russians penetrate America," and I saw the words being written: Alaska, Minnesota, and Florida. The man spoke, "When America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike without warning." The other 2 presidents spoke. "We, too, will fight for you." Each had a place already planned as a point of an attack. All of them shook hands and hugged. Then they all signed a contract. One of them said, "We're sure that Korea and Cuba will be on our side, too. Without a doubt, together we can destroy America." The president of Russia began to speak consistently. "Why let ourselves be led by the Americans? Why not rule the world ourselves? They must be kicked out of Europe, too. Then I could do as I please with Europe." Now, the angel then speaks. The man standing beside me says, "This is what you saw. They act." Look at that word. They act. They act as friends. They say they respect the treaties together, meaning all of this may never happen. This whole thing you just saw with China and Russia, that may not ever happen. I don't know. But this is the question. But everything I've shown you is how it will really happen. Okay, now, what's he talking about there? He says, I think it's talking about the fall of America. Dmitry went through 5 months of torture, sat on the electric chair twice, carried Bibles for 30 years to get this message. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 other countries I cannot remember will attack and defeat America in 1 day and 1 hour. Now, listen to this next part. Then God will raise up China and Japan and many other nations. They'll go against the Russians. They'll defeat the Russians. They'll back the Russians to the gates of Paris where they sign a peace treaty, but they make the Russians their leader. Then, with the Russians as the leader, all the world goes down to attack little Israel, Ezekiel 38:39. Israel can't count on the help of the Jews in America, so she cries for Messiah. Jesus returns on the clouds, Revelation 18, 19, 18 and 19. Returns on the clouds and defeats the armies of the earth. In a moment, the twinkling of an eye at the last trump. Now, we're not exactly sure what this prophecy is saying, but we're watching. We're watching to find out. What came to me as I was preparing this, I think it's saying that this whole charade between China and Russia, between Xi Jinping and Putin, is just that. It's just charade. They're not really going to work together when it comes to the attack on America. Now, maybe they work together with the attack on Taiwan. And see, even if you back up to this, see, it's saying here, okay, so the voice said to me, watch where the Russians penetrate America. So that's the angel. That's accurate. I saw the words Alaska, Minnesota, and Florida. When America goes to war with China, the Russians strike without warning. Wait a minute. That's not what he says later. See, so it's unclear. It's unclear. I'm admitting it's unclear. I wish that, sometimes going between Romanian and English, there's a bit of a disconnect. And on this one, I think there was a bit of a disconnect. I'm just not clear on what it says. So it says that God is going to raise up China, Japan, and many of the nations that will go against the Russians. And then here it says, but everything I've shown you, right here, look, but everything I've shown you is how it really happened. So I'm not clear. My best guess is that the issue that China and Russia are talking about right now, that issue is maybe talking about Taiwan, and that may come to pass. But when it comes to the all-out destruction, all-out nuclear exchange, not even exchange, just the nuclear attack from Russia on America that destroys us in 1 hour, then God raises up China. Now, you may be saying, wait, that's a big turnaround from where China is now. Well, there's a prophecy out there. I read it one day. Problem is, I think I only have one of them. But it says that the Chinese church is going to raise up and overthrow the communist, the CCP, and do a lot of good in China. Now, I don't think that China will become Christian or anything, but it may be that they at least become better than they are. Maybe that's the way to say it. All right, now, let me see. What else did I want to say? Okay, I guess I better finish this. So I said, who are you? This is Dimitri. Who are you, I asked. I'm the protector of America. America's sins has reached God. He will allow this destruction, for he can no longer stand such wickedness. God still has people who worship him with a clean heart and do his work. He's prepared a heavenly army to save these people. As I looked, a great army, well-dressed and dressed in white, appeared before me. Do you see that? The man asked. This army will go to battle to save my chosen ones. Then the difference between the godly and the ungodly will be evident. Now remember, Revelation 6:2-4 is talking about he went forth conquering to conquer, to take peace from the earth, to kill one another. There are 3 people that say we're in the tribulation. I'm not one of them, but I'm saying there are some reasons to say yes, maybe we are in the last 7 years, but I'm not ready to say that yet. But my point today is, Shane Warren said, when we're in a financial storm, Cuban banks are closing, the securities being dropped, China buying massive amounts of gold, and they're not the only one. It could be we see that earthquake maybe this year, maybe even before the end of June. And China and Russia are having war plans. So it appears there's a lot of things happening these days. Ask Jesus to forgive your sins. Just say, Jesus, forgive my sins. Jesus, be my God. Let me talk about our 3 sponsors briefly. First, if you want to get gold or silver, we're going to send you to 800-200-GOLD or prophecyclubgold.com. prophecyclubgold.com. Second, if you want to get long-term emergency food, the only place I would send you to is Joseph's kitchen.com. It is what I believe is God's long-term storage food. As you recall, Pharaoh and Joseph, what fed the world for 7 years was wheat. Most of your long-term storage places, $9,000 to $10,000 to feed one person for 1 year. Joseph's Kitchen can show you how to do it for about $1,000, one person, 1 year. And EMP Shield. If you want your car to start, if you want your computers to start after some kind of nuclear event, that's the device to get. And if you go to empshield.com and use the promo code PROPHECY, get your $50 discount and helps your Prophecy Club. I've not talked about our books for a long time, so I'm going to take a minute and explain them. First of all, I think this is the very best book that I've ever written. And it's called The Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, but it does not have the word rapture in it, does not discuss it. This is only talking about Bible prophecy. So the story is in 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. I got 30 revelations, 2 visions, and an audible voice. God showed me the word first fruits is a secret door that links Revelation and the feasts, showing the correct chronological order of Revelation. One prophetic word says there is a lock that I put over a word in the book of Revelation. I'm going to open it to you, and it will turn many books written on the end-time message into obsolete books. That's this book. Then I next wrote Miss the Mark. And it's for anyone. It's simple. It's if they read 3 pages, they'll read the whole book. If they read the whole book, they will never take the mark of the beast. Also, this Tribulation Secrets in Daniel is just the most important parts of Daniel that someone living in a tribulation needs to know. These are the best prophecies from the last 32 years of study and teaching Bible prophecy from Dimitri Duduman, Michael Boldale, Leslie Johnson, Henry Groover, Shane Warren, Terry Bennett, Maurice Sklar, Augusto Perez, Doug Metzger, Bree Keaton, and more. Each set of these, in other words, this is a set of 10, a set of 10, a set of 5, a set of 10, a set of 5. It's a total of 40 books. You can get one set of each, 40 books, for a gift of $100 at prophecyclub.com. We also put together a Watchman's package, which contains 2 2-foot by 3-foot charts and my handwritten book of Revelation, 5 DVDs on the School of the Watchman, and 5 of the copies of Secret Door to Understand Bible Prophecy, all valued at $355 for a gift of $200. prophecyclub.com.